The wind came first, thin, dry, and sharp as a blade drawn slow from its sheath. It slipped through the grass and carried dust across the plain, whispering against stone and bone alike. The land had learned how to endure, so had the people who crossed it. She stood with the sun at her back, a long branch lifted across her shoulders, wrists tied to its rough bark with rawhide. The hide bit into her skin, but she did not bow her head. Her hair, dark and heavy, fell loose down her back, stirring like a banner when the wind rose. Scars crossed her arms and thighs, pale lines etched by years of survival. She wore little more than leather and grit, yet she stood as if armored. Across from her, several paces away, the man waited. He was taller than most, broad-shouldered, cut from the same hard stone as the mountains behind him. His chest was bare, marked by old wounds and sun-brown muscle. A gun belt hung low on his hips, revolver resting easy in its holster, not drawn, not hidden. His eyes stayed on her, not with hunger, not with cruelty, but with a steady measuring calm that unsettled more than rage ever could. A horse stood behind him, reins loose, ears flicking. The animal sensed what the man did, that this meeting balanced on the edge of something that could turn bloody in a breath. No one spoke at first. The mountains watched, ancient and indifferent. She broke the silence. "You came alone," she said. Her voice was low, roughened by dust and distance. "That was either brave or foolish." "It depends who's counting," he replied. She smiled just barely. Men usually bring guns when they plan to take something. "I brought mine," he said, tapping the butt of the revolver. "I just didn't come to take." Her eyes narrowed. "Then why are you here?" He took a step forward, slow, deliberate, the grass bent under his boot. "Because your people crossed the river last night, burned a homestead, took 2 horses, left 1 man alive." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. "That land was stolen long before last night." "Maybe," he said. "But the man who bled there had a wife, and a boy who doesn't understand maps or history. Only fire." The wind gusted harder, lifting dust between them like smoke. She shifted the branch on her shoulders, muscles flexing. "So you came to threaten me?" "No," he said. "I came to bargain." That surprised her. "Bargains are for men who think they can lose," she said. "And wars are for those who already have," he answered. Silence again. A hawk cried somewhere high above, circling. Her name was Ayana. Among her people, it meant eternal bloom, though the land she knew rarely bloomed at all. She had been born during a drought, raised during war, and sharpened by loss. By the time she could walk, she had learned when to run. By the time she could fight, she had learned when not to. The branch across her shoulders was not a sign of defeat. It was a symbol, an old trial of strength and endurance. She had chosen it herself. A man knew this. His name was Caleb Ward. He had once been a farmer, then a soldier, then a man with too many graves behind him to count. The land had taken his family slowly, first his father to fever, then his wife to winter, then his brother to a bullet fired by someone who rode away laughing. Now he guarded a stretch of valley no one else wanted. Rocky soil, bad water, but it was his, and it was close, too close to Ayana's people. "You want peace," she said finally. I want fewer graves," Caleb replied. For considered him, really looked this time. The way he stood, balanced, ready, but not tense. The way his hand rested near his weapon without clinging to it. This was a man who knew violence intimately and did not worship it. A peace costs," she said. "Ha, so does war," he answered. "Whose preference is who pays first?" Ayana exhaled slowly. The branch creaked as she rolled her shoulder. "If I lower this," she said, "my people will see it as weakness. If you don't," Caleb said, "mine will see only a threat." The wind stilled as if waiting. She took 1 step forward, then another. Each movement was controlled, deliberate, ceremonial. When she stopped, they were close enough that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the old burn scar along his ribs. "Untie me," she said. Caleb did not move immediately. "Or what?" he asked. "Or this land drinks blood again," she said quietly. He studied her wrists. The rawhide knots were tight, but old. He reached out slowly, giving her time to object. She didn't. His fingers worked the knot. The rawhide loosened, then fell away. The branch dropped into the grass with a dull thud. Ayana rolled her shoulders, wincing once before straightening. They stood unbound now, unguarded, exposed. This was how wars ended or began. In the distance, thunder rumbled, though the sky was clear. Caleb glanced toward the mountains. "A storm coming," he said. Ayana nodded. "There always is." She turned, gesturing toward the rocky pass behind her. Walk with me. If we're going to decide the fate of men, we shouldn't do it standing like statues. He hesitated only a moment before following. The horse snorted softly as they moved away, dust rising underfoot. Behind them, the open plain waited, patient as death. They walked into the pass side by side, not touching, not speaking. Stone walls rose around them, narrowing the sky into a pale ribbon above. The air smelled of iron and dry moss. Every sound echoed too loudly. Boots on gravel, breath in lungs, the distant scrape of wings as a vulture shifted on a ledge. Ayana knew this place well. The pass was older than memory, cut by water and patience. Her people had used it to move unseen when the plains turned hostile. Ugh. Bones lay buried here, some human, some not, all forgotten by names that once mattered. Caleb felt the press of it immediately. Narrow ground made men honest. There was nowhere to hide a lie when Stone listened from both sides. You didn't ask my name, Ayana said at last. I know it, he replied. That stopped her. She turned, eyes sharp. From where? From a man who tried to kill me, Caleb said evenly. He lived long enough to talk. Ayana's mouth tightened, but then he talked too much. He talked enough, Caleb answered, said your name like it was a warning. They resumed walking. Names mattered. Among Ayana's people, a name carried weight earned through action. To speak it carelessly was to invite its burden. My name isn't a threat, she said. It's a record. Caleb nodded once. So is mine. They reached a shelf of stone overlooking the valley. From here the land opened wide, patches of yellow grass, a thin river flashing silver, a cluster of wooden buildings crouched like animals near water. Smoke rose straight from chimneys. No wind reached this low yet. That's your town, Ayana said. A part of it, Caleb replied. The rest is people who came after and decided it belonged to them. She studied the buildings. Wood rots fast out here. So do men, he said. She gave him a sideways look. You speak like someone who's buried too many. I have, Caleb said. Some I deserved to, some I didn't. The admission hung between them, heavier than a threat. Below, the town of Dry Creek breathed quietly, unaware of how close it stood to becoming a memory. Children chased a hoop between buildings. A woman hung wet clothes, her hands red from cold water. A dog slept in the dirt, one eye open. Ayana saw none of them as enemies. She saw them as they were, fragile lives stitched together by habit and hope. Ayana crouched, picked up a stone, turned it in her fingers. Fear makes men greedy. And brave, Caleb said. Sometimes, she tossed the stone. It clattered down the slope and disappeared. Mostly greedy, Caleb cleared his throat. There's a man in that town named Horace Pike. Ayana's eyes hardened instantly. He trades, Caleb continued. Guns, whiskey, lot. He pays boys to ride out at night and stir trouble, then sells protection the next morning. You think I don't know this man? Ayana said. He once tried to buy my silence with mirrors and sugar. And? I took the sugar, she said. Then I burned his wagons. Caleb almost smiled. He wants a war, Caleb said, because war makes him rich. Ayana stood. Then he is more dangerous than any rifle. They sat on the stone shelf as clouds began to gather far off, tall and white like towers. The air thick. When I was young, Ayana said, an elder told me the land remembers every drop of blood spilled on it. That one day, it demands balance. Did you believe him? Caleb asked. I still do, she said. That's why I'm careful about where I spill it. Caleb leaned back, eyes on the sky. I used to think balance was a lie men told themselves so they could sleep. And now? Now I think it's just slow, he said. Ayana rose again. If your town wants peace, they must stop riding our borders. He won't, Caleb said. Not while Pike whispers in their ear. Then remove him, she said simply. Caleb exhaled. It's not that simple. It never is, Ayana replied. That doesn't make it untrue. She stepped closer, voice lowering. If Pike lives, blood will follow him like a shadow. If he dies, the shadow scatters. You're asking me to start a war inside my own town, Caleb said. I'm asking you to end one before it starts, she said. Thunder rolled again, closer now. From the far ridge, a glint of metal flashed. Ayana saw it first. Her hand moved, gripping Caleb's arm hard. We're not alone. Caleb followed her gaze. A rider stood silhouetted against the sky, rifle resting easy across his saddle. One of yours? Caleb asked. No, Ayana said. One of his. The rider turned his horse and vanished behind stone. Ayana released Caleb's arm. A Pike knows we're talking. Caleb's jaw set. Then he'll move, but so will we, she said. They descended the pass quickly now, not hiding, not rushing. The storm finally reached them, wind snapping at close, the first cold drops of rain darkening dust into mud. At the edge of the valley, they stopped. "This is where we part," Caleb said. "But for now," Ayanna agreed. She looked at him for a long moment. "If you betray this," she said, touching the space between them, "there will be no second meeting." Caleb met her gaze. "If I don't," he said, "there may not be a first town left." She nodded once. Respect earned. Ayanna turned toward the hills, rain streaking her skin, and walked away without looking back. Caleb watched until the land swallowed her. Then he turned toward Dry Creek, thunder cracking overhead, and began walking toward a decision that would stain everything it touched. Horace Pike liked to stand where people could see him. The saloon at Dry Creek was built higher than the rest of the town, its porch raised on thick posts, its doors swinging wide as if inviting confession. Pike stood there now, thumbs hooked in his vest, silver watch chain glinting against dark cloth. He smiled easily, the way men did when they believed the world bent for them. Rain began to fall harder, drumming against wood and tin. The storm Caleb had felt in his bones finally arrived. "Good for business," Pike said to no one in particular. The men around him laughed. Not because it was funny, but because Pike expected it. Caleb watched from across the street, hat pulled low. He counted guns without looking obvious, 6 on the porch, 2 at the bar inside. At least 3 more scattered nearby, pretending to mind their own affairs. Too many. Pike's eyes found Caleb anyway. They always did. "A ward," Pike called. "I'll come have a drink before the rain drowns us all." Caleb crossed the street slowly. Each step felt like walking into a grave he dug himself. Inside, the saloon smelled of wet wool, whiskey, and fear. A piano sat silent in the corner, keys yellowed with age. The bartender wiped the same glass again and again, eyes fixed on nothing. Pike poured 2 drinks himself. "You look tired," he said, sliding one across. "I am," Caleb replied, not touching it. "War'll do that," Pike said lightly. Caleb's gaze sharpened. "What war?" Pike chuckled. "The one everyone's pretending isn't already here." Lightning flashed through the windows. For a moment, Pike's smile looked like a skull. "I hear you've been talking to hill people," Pike continued. Caleb said nothing. "And that silence?" Pike went on. "That's agreement. Or guilt." Caleb leaned in just enough for Pike to smell rain on him. "Oh, if you know so much," he said. "You already know which one." Pike's eyes hardened. Careful, Ward. You protect land no one wants. You stand between people who do." Miles away, beneath the shelter of red rock and pine, Ayanna returned to her people. The camp stirred as she entered. Fires burned low against the rain. Faces turned toward her, old warriors, young hunters, women with knives at their belts and grief in their eyes. The council circle formed without a word. Ayanna stood at its center. "A pike moves," she said. He watched us. A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd. An elder named Takoda stepped forward. His hair was white as ash, his back bent but unbroken. "Men like Pike do not fear truth," he said. "They fear loss." Ayanna nodded. "Then we take from him what he values." A younger warrior spat into the dirt. "A blood." "Not yet," Ayanna said. "First silver." Eyes met hers, understanding dawning. Back in Dry Creek, Pike raised his glass. "You want peace?" he said. "Help me end this nuisance cleanly." Caleb's voice was flat. "You're the nuisance." The room went silent. Pike laughed softly. "That kind of talk gets men killed." Or remembered, Caleb said. Isonai. Pike leaned closer, voice dropping. "I've already sent riders. By dawn, there'll be smoke on the hills. Folks will beg me for protection, and I'll sell it to them." Caleb felt something cold settle in his chest. "You're lighting the match." "I'm owning the fire," Pike replied. Night fell hard. Rain soaked the land. Thunder cracked the sky open. In the hills, shadows moved, silent, precise. Ayanna's people struck Pike's supply wagons first. Knives cut leather. Hands scattered silver into the mud. Barrels of whiskey burst and bled into the earth. No one screamed. By the time Pike's riders reached the hills, there was nothing left to guard but wreckage. In town, a shout split the night. "Fire!" Flames rose near the livery, sudden and bright against the storm. Panic surged. Men ran. Women grabbed children. Pike stepped onto the porch, fury etched into his face, then to his face. "Ward," he roared. "This is on you." Caleb drew his gun. For the first time, Pike stopped smiling. Ayanna watched the distant glow from the ridge. Her jaw tightened. "But too soon," she whispered. Something had gone wrong. The storm raged on, uncaring who had started it. The fire at the livery spread faster than rain could kill it. Flames climbed the dry beams, hissing and snapping as if alive. Horses screamed inside, terror ripping from their throats. Men rushed forward with buckets, coats, bare hands, anything. Chaos swallowed the street. Caleb moved through it like a man already dead. Pike's voice cut through the noise. "Hold them back. Let it burn. Let them see what happens when you invite savages into our affairs." The word landed heavy. Caleb stopped. Slowly, deliberately, he turned. Pike stood on the porch, rain plastering his hair to his skull, pistol raised, not at the fire, but at a group of terrified townsfolk trying to rush past him. "Hub back!" Pike shouted. Caleb raised his gun. The shot cracked louder than thunder. Pike staggered, surprise blooming across his face as blood spread through his vest, dark and fast. He fell backward onto the saloon boards, the silver watch chain snapping like a broken promise. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then everything exploded. Men shouted. Guns cleared leather. Glass shattered. Caleb fired again, once, twice, forcing Pike's guards back. He didn't aim to kill now. He aimed to live. "Ward's gone mad," someone yelled. "Kill him," another voice roared. Caleb dove behind a water trough as bullets tore through wood. Splinters stung his face. Smoke filled his lungs. Across the street, the livery roof collapsed in a roar of sparks and ash. On the ridge, Ayanna felt the gunshot before she heard it. She closed her eyes once. "So it begins," she said. She raised her arm. Shadows rose with her, warriors slipping from stone and brush like spirits pulled from the earth. Only those who carry Pike's mark. They moved. Back in Dry Creek, Pike lay gasping on the porch, eyes wide, blood pooling beneath him. He clawed weakly at the boards as Caleb emerged from cover. "You chose them," Pike rasped. Caleb stood over him, rain washing blood from his boots. "I chose an end." Pike laughed, wet and broken. "You think this stops it?" Caleb didn't answer. The second shot ended the question. Silence fell, not peace, but shock. Men stared at Pike's body as if it might rise again through force of greed alone. Then screaming erupted from the far end of town. Gunfire. Ayanna's people struck fast, disarming guards, dragging Pike's hired guns into alleys, knives flashing once, clean, final. Blood mixed with rain, running in thin red lines through the mud. This was not slaughter. This was removal. Caleb moved through the town, shouting orders he had no right to give. "Furry, get inside. Lock your doors. Anyone not armed." A man lunged at him from a doorway, knife raised. Caleb fired without thinking. The man fell, eyes still surprised. Caleb stared at the body longer than necessary. Another name added. By dawn, Dry Creek was unrecognizable. Smoke curled from blackened beams. Bodies lay covered with blankets, boots sticking out like accusations. The rain finally eased, leaving the town soaked and trembling. Ayanna stood at the edge of town, watching from the trees. Caleb approached slowly, gun holstered, hands open. "You crossed a line," she said. "Then I'll stand in the middle." Ayanna's gaze softened, just a fraction. "The middle is where men die first." Caleb met her eyes. "Then I won't die quietly." In the hills beyond Dry Creek, a rider watched the smoke fade. He turned his horse east. War had been declared.